Hey everyone, I'm Jay, and in this video I'll be dissecting a simple Holy Grail layout. We'll look at all the pieces of it and talk about how this Holy Grail layout is made. There are many ways to actually define how it's built on the back side of it, but they're all going to look the same to the users. Right, so this screen that you see right here is a Holy Grail layout. It has a header and a footer and a main area in the center with a sidebar on either side. And the sidebars do extend all the way down. In the old days, that was one of the hardest things that a lot of developers had trouble getting to work. Right? So we'll see a bit of that in action. This particular one is not the most robust of Holy Grail layouts. Right? In order to make a really good one, I would prefer using something like a grid. This one is much simpler than that. We'll take a look at how it's built, and then we can move from there into the future. Right? So first, we have the header element, right? And I'm using semantic elements primarily in this example. Right? So we have a header. Inside the header, I just have an H1 tag that says header. We're not even going to bother looking into there. Right? So we have a header. Then we have just a div with the ID of content that is used as a container for all these other inner elements. Right? There are a few elements in there and they do need a container. It is not a semantic container because it is just a container. So I've labeled it with an ID of content. There should not be more than one content on a page, so ID is appropriate. And then below that we have a footer. This footer is almost identical to the header in terms of its styling. If I click on that, you'll see the styling. It really just has a height and a background color and some padding. So does the header. It really just has a height, some background, and some padding. Moving on to the content. My content area really just needs one thing, which is to be position relative, and that's because I chose to absolutely position my sidebars. And you'll see that coming in just a moment. As I open up my content area to see what's inside of it, I have an aside, a main, and an aside. Let's have a look at the main. Right? It's going to have a minimum height, which I've set to be a calculated value of 100 viewport heights minus 400 pixels. And that's because my header is 200 pixels and my footer is 200 pixels. So I want the minimum height of my main area to be the exact measurement that will make this perfectly one screen high. And this is not a responsive design. This is just for desktops. This is just an example to see how a Holy Grail is laid out and how it might work. And this is not the best way to make a Holy Grail. There are much better ways, but this is perhaps the first way that you might learn. So this one has that minimum height there, which I love using the viewport height as the minimum height to make sure that if you have a low amount of content in your main content area, your page is at least as high as the viewport so that you don't have just a blank area at the bottom of the screen. I really hate that blank area that you see sometimes on really short pages. So I'm going to force mine to be at least that high. Then I'm going to give it a margin of 20% on both the left and the right. Strictly speaking, I could get away with just doing 20% on the left and then a 60% width and leave the right hand side blank. I could do that. I didn't have to put the margin on there, but just for consistency's sake, I like to do both things. Then I just have some colors and some padding on there. Well, those are incidental. And so the main is right there, and that's where I get this background color here. Each of the asides are just absolutely positioned, one in the top left, one in the top right. They're 20% wide. I did not give them any background color, but if I chose to, I would either redo the way they went. I could tell them to be 100% high, in which case they would be 100% the height of their parent, that ID content element, and then I could give them a background color. But this is a very basic, this is kind of an old school, not that old school, Holy Grail layout. The really old school ones we made with tables. This one is made with semantic elements. In the old days, I would have made this just with div tags with class names or IDs. But we have semantic elements now, so that is what I'm using. And so this is just the basic structure of a Holy Grail layout. In later videos, I'll probably build another one using the grid system, which is going to make it fully responsive as well. Thanks for watching.